Thank you very much for being part of this incredible project. I have to apologize. I'm not giving any scroll to the Technion, even not a fragment, so I apologize. As part of the introduction, the Aleppo Codex, the Keter and Tzova was mentioned, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the Nano-Bible. So the purpose of my short presentation is actually to put in perspective all these names as part, as you see, from this incredible story of the Hebrew Bible. So in the history of human mankind, there are documents written before the Hebrew Bible in the Egyptian tradition, the Mesopotamian tradition, but actually for the Jews, their book is still the Hebrew Bible, not Harry Potter. It's still their book. And actually, the oldest biblical manuscripts on earth were discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls. The major archaeological discovery of the 20th century, between 47 and 56, in 11 caves in the area called Qumran, located on the northwestern shore of the Dead Sea, 35 kilometers east from Jerusalem. Hundreds of manuscripts were discovered, and as mentioned, the oldest biblical manuscript were discovered there. We know today that among the scrolls, about 230 biblical manuscripts were discovered. Copies of all the biblical canonical books except for one, the book of Esther, was not discovered among the scrolls. And obviously, we have several copies of the same book. From the book of Deuteronomy, the 5th book of Moses, we have 30 copies. Of the book of Psalms, we have 37 copies. The most popular prophet among the scrolls is the prophet Isaiah, the great prophet of Israel, 21 copies. But out of the about 230 copies, only one is a full copy, the great Isaiah scroll. There is marvelous manuscript dated to the 1st century BCE. So from the time of the Maccabeans. If some of you want to practice your Hebrew, you can see it's a very clear Hashmonean script, written as mentioned between 120 and 100 BCE. Now, the scholars argue that Qumran was actually the settlement for a Jewish sect. Most scholars would argue that were the Essenes, and the place is called Qumran. By the way, Qumran is not the original name. It's known only from travelers' books from the end of the 19th century. So we don't know how originally the place was called. And in the excavations made by the French School of Archaeology, headed by the great professor, the Father Roland Devaux, between 51 and 56, he identified in Qumran some rooms that, according to his interpretation, serve for a kind of scriptorium, as a scribal room, as in Middle Ages monasteries, for producing maybe some of the scrolls. Obviously, most of the scrolls were not written in Qumran. We have scrolls from the middle of 3rd century BCE, and the beginning of the communities are around 100 BCE. In Qumran were discovered inkwells, no iPod, no cell phones, just regular inkwells, and remnants of something that, when it was reconstructed, were actually kind of tables. The largest one is it has more than 5 meters, and in this artistic reconstruction, we can see and to have an idea how actually the place looked like. So some of the scrolls were produced in Qumran, written by ancient scribes, and in this way also the scrolls and the biblical materials were transmitted for centuries. For example, you can see 2 images from Middle Ages, one from the west and one from the east, from the Amiatinus Codex in Florence, or an Armenian manuscript from the 15th century, how actually ancient scribes produce books. You know that, my field is archaeology, so it sounds and looks archaeology, because for us it's beyond our present day with the computers and the electronic books, but in this way, ancient materials were produced for thousands of years. And as mentioned, as part of this history of technology, the first biblical manuscripts were discovered supposedly on papyrus, written on papyrus. Then most of the scrolls, 80% of the scrolls are written on animal skin, only 20% on papyrus. And from the 8th century on, Jews adopted a new technology, the Roman book, the Codex, that was adopted by Christians and Muslims, and the Jews adopted the Codex not for liturgical reasons. Still today we read from scrolls, not for a book, but for scholarly reasons. And here Professor Ben-Sasson mentioned the Keter Tzova, the Aleppo Codex, this wonderful piece that is part of the exhibition, regular exhibition at the Shrine of the Book. In the past was a complete version of the Hebrew Bible containing, we suppose, around 490 pages. Today we have in hands only 295. Most of the Pentateuch disappeared. We have only a few pages from the end of Deuteronomy. We don't have the book of Daniel, the book of Ecclesiastes, but is the most precise Masoretic or traditional version of the Hebrew Bible on earth. As mentioned, was born in the land of Israel, then brought into Egypt, was studied and used by the great Rambam, the Maimonides, and then brought into Aleppo in Syria for 600 years, and today is back to the land of Israel. Here you can see something that also Professor Ben-Sasson mentioned. You have the vocalization of the text, you have the Ta'amim, the cantillation, you have the Masorah Magna and Masorah Parva that are actually scholarly remarks made by Aaron ben Moshe ben Asher, the great Masoret that produced the text. And then you have a new stage in the history of the Hebrew Bible when the print was invented, and then it's not by chance that Gutenberg published the Bible, the Vulgate, the Latin version of the Hebrew, of the Bible. For him was also the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament. But actually the Bible, again you see how central is the role played by the Bible in the history of Western civilization. Now, afterwards, the use of the print became very popular, and therefore the book became very popular. And for us, we live in a new era of the digital book. Now, you know, in such a brief presentation, I have no time to deal with philosophical questions. And I thought, but we have to devote some time to think about what does it mean that this marvelous book, in the past written on papyrus, afterwards on animal skin, then from a scroll became a book, and now we have a printed book and a digital book. What does it mean? And what is the meaning for modern civilization? So I want now to show you a very short video. Maybe some of you even saw this video. I think in this context it has a tremendous significance. What does it mean, this kind of technological revolution around book in our present life?
Broder Ansgar? Ja, der er jeg. Ja, så bra, ok. Ja, hei du. Hei du. Ja. Ja, hva gjelder det? Ja, det er denne her. Ja, vil du sitte? Takk. Ja. Jaha. Ja, så jeg har ikke fått gjort noen ting hele formiddagen. Ja? Nei, jeg beklager at det tar tid. Altså, skjønner vi holder på å legge om til et helt nytt system, og da skal alle ha hjelp på en gang. Ja. Så du kommer ikke inn i den, eller? Nei, den bare ligger der. Ok, har du forsøkt å åpne den? Ja, åpne den? Altså, hvis det hadde vært så enkelt, så hadde jeg jo ikke tilkalt helpdesk, hadde jeg vel? Nei, det er sant. Nei. Vil du ha en kopp varmt vann? Nei, det skal være fort gjort. Det skal vi se. Du bare gjør der. Sånn. Ja, da er vi i gang. Ja, altså så langt kom jeg også. Ok. Men så stoppet det opp, og så var jeg redd for at noe av teksten skulle forsvinne, så jeg turte ikke å gå videre. Åja, ok. Nei, men du skjønner at inni her, så ligger det kanskje flere 100 sider med lagret tekst. Så for å komme videre, så tar du tak i et ark, på den måten her, og så liksom blar du over på neste side sånn. Da fortsetter teksten der. Jeg blar, altså.
Du blar, ja.
Men når jeg skal tilbake, da?
Ja, da bare blar du tilbake igjen. Tar tak der. Og så, sånn. Der. Så er du tilbake til den teksten du hadde sa. Ikke noe
Ok, så den slutter der, og så fortsetter den der, ja. Ok, men når jeg skal avslutte for dagen, hva gjør jeg da?
Da bare slår du sammen permene.
Ja?
På den måten der. Sånn. Da er den lukket der, ligger alt lagret inni der.
Altså, jeg risikerer ikke å miste noe av teksten her nå.
Nei,
Altså.
alt ligger lagret inni her nå.
Ja.
Da må du i tilfelle sette fyr på hele greia. Det er kanskje litt sannsynlig. Så.
Ja, ok. Nei, men for det er noe med det at ikke sant, når du har holdt på med skriftruller,
Ja.
så tar det litt grann tid å konvertere til å bla i en bøk.
Ja.
Ja, det er greit. Ja, men du, en til før du går. Jeg bare gå gjennom en gang til. Altså, jeg åpner sånn,
Ja, riktig.
og så, hva har du kalt det?
Blar.
Jeg blar,
Ja, blar videre.
blar frem og tilbake.
Ja.
Og når,
Teksten ligger der hele tiden.
ja. Og når jeg er ferdig, så bare lukker jeg den.
Oi.
Flott.
Fint det.
Kjempefint.
Ja, flott det.
Ja, men du, vent, ikke sant? Nå er den sånn igjen, nå får jeg ikke åpnet den.
Ja, du har fra feil side. Du må åpne fra andre siden.
Så det er ikke likegyldig, det,
Du
altså?
må åpne fra den siden der. Sånn. Der. Der er den åpen.
Ja vel.
Har du
Ok.
lest manualen, eller?
Manualen?
Jeg skal følge med sånn manual og sånn brukerveiledning. Det er sikkert den der. Der, vet du.
Å ja,
I
den, ja.
står alt sammen.
Ja, men ikke sant, der har du samme problemet. Får den ikke opp. Åpnet den.
Ok, det skulle vi kanskje ha tenkt på.
Okay, so you see how dangerous it is to live in such a modern times that people, they forgot what we mean by just a book. For my kids, a book is an electronic one. And today we have a new kind of book. This Nano-Bible, the smallest Bible on earth. This is the latest technological development of this marvelous book that started its way thousands of years in the past. And you know, when we dedicated the exhibition, what is the regular question that people, they ask me and the guides? It's impossible to read from it, even to look at. So even they can't believe that something is not just, it's not a digital one. 1,200,000 letters are engraved in it, and in a few moments, Professor Uri Sivan is going to explain you how it was produced. So only if you amplify 10,000 times, you can read. And the version is a digital version of the Masoretic text. As mentioned, this is the close and definitive version of the Hebrew Bible based on the version from the Aleppo Codex. And in our exhibition, in order to explain people, you don't have time for a whole lecture explaining the technological development of the Hebrew Bible. So it's my pleasure now to show you that we produce a short video of 1 minute. When I say we produce, it's not only myself, it's also Rote Marielli, the co-curator in this exhibition we produce at the Shrine. And we try to show people how this passage, this is the beginning of the first chapter of Genesis, of the Torah, when God began to create heaven and earth, the earth being unformed and void, with darkness over the surface of the deep and a wind from God sweeping over the water. God said, let there be light, and there was light. So now in the coming video, just 1 minute, we using these verses, the 3 first verses of the Torah, of the first chapter, of the first book of the Pentateuch, just in 1 minute, the whole history, technological history of the Hebrew Bible. And the video I'm going to show you is the video that usually we show people, the visitors, at the Shrine of the Book. Enjoy.